right. So my guest today is none other than I call him Agba scholar. For those that are not Nigerians, you will understand when we say Agba, it means a very senior person in a particular field or expertise. It is vast. That's just the point. So my guest today is none other than Omotayo Jemiluyi. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate that.
So, want to know more about you. I know you a little bit. I think it's a little bit, not that much. So, walk us through who the personality is.
Well, this is nothing like really super crazy or anything. But my name is Omotayo Jemiluyi, as you rightly said. Born in Nigeria, now living in America. Um, I like to think of myself as a deep thinker, and um, and I call myself a few things. I call myself a Pan Africanist, and I call myself a cultural theorist because I love to look at how our art, our popular art, how they're like medium of expressions, medium of expressing who we are, as indigenous beings, and how that really helps to advance the modalities of what is really specific to us as humans, as Africans. And also, being a researcher, being a scholar, currently affiliated with the Migration Institute at the University of Missouri, Columbia. I love to look at how, gender, migration intersects and how migration shapes gender and how gender also like clashes and, connect with migration. All of this fun stuff. But I just said that a lot just to say that I'm a researcher, I'm a scholar, and I'm a thinker.
Yeah. If to talk about the thinking part, he's a critical thinker, and that is one of the things that kind of intrigued me when we first met. So I want to ask, what was growing up for you like?
So growing up, was quite interesting because I grew up in Agege. For those who know Lagos very well, Agege is like
Right.
Agege is seen to be one of the rockiest streets in Nigeria. So I when I tell people that I'm Ajapako, they never believe because they're like, "Oh, bro,
You
you
don't
look
look
so
like
fresh."
Ajekpako, and Ajekpako in context is somebody that grew up in a very like a low income kind of place, but
Yeah.
you don't look like
But I
Ajekpako.
did grow up there, and that is really what's funny because like
Yeah.
even when I was schooling, I think Songo Senior Secondary School in Pensinema, in Agege.
Yeah.
When I tell people like, oh, I actually live right here in Agege, they're like, no, you probably
No.
live in Ogba, maybe somewhere really fancy. I'm like, I think I just have a skin that makes the skin that I have makes people think like, I'm from probably like this very rich background. But
Yeah.
I just said all of that to say, I grew up in Agege. It was a rockers neighborhood, but it was really fun. Um, it was beautiful, growing up with my family and friends that we have. Life was free. I never had like so much to think about. But every time I reflect, it always takes me back to how, you know, we just have to like valorize where we're from because there's a lot of how should I don't know how best to say this, but there's a lot of histories that we carry with us that you know even though when we look back it looks like it came from a point of not a lot,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day it turns out to be like a very magnificent resources that really help us to push ourselves forward and to just be a better person overall.
Mm. So, would you say that the environment you grew up in and the family you came from contributed to the kind of aspect of your career that you are in today?
Absolutely. So I think one thing for me is I've always like loved reading and writing when I was young,
Mm.
and one of the places that we lived in Agege was there was this man who would always tell us stories at night.
Mm.
So one of the things I try to do is that I would have like a special book where later I would take all of the stories that he's been telling us and then I would try to like write it out. And I had this ambition that I really wanted to sell like a storybook.
Mm-hmm.
So that was definitely something that that really influenced me. Although that never did it came true, but it didn't come true. But it is what it is.
Yeah.
But besides that as well, my father was the secretary of Ekiti State Association, and he would always write, and then he would
Yeah.
make me also like write minutes and help him to transfer some of the things he wrote. Then I'll write it again in another sheet of paper, and I'll write letters for him. And I just think all of those engagement with like writing really sort of like propelled me not to be so scared about writing because I've already been through it, I've seen it, I've lived it. So it just formed a sort of like foundation that looking back, I would say it didn't mean much. But when I look at it again critically, I would say it kind of formed like the seedbed of how I just sort of find it very comfortable to write.
Mm. So I know that you can't be a good writer if you're not a good reader. Somehow, I may be
Yeah.
wrong, but I feel like the more you read, the more you have different perspective to different topics and then different issues in the society. So you've authored 4 books.
Yeah.
And definitely there were books or music or folklore or something that
Yeah.
influenced your interest to writing. So what
Yeah.
were those?
So I would say me as a person, I've never really been big on names, but I do like a few people in the field of like African studies.
Yeah.
But before getting to that, answer that particular question, I would say also I was a freelance writer back in Nigeria. So one of the things that was freelancing was writing self-help books.
Okay.
And then when you're writing self-help books, the main thing you need are like blog posts. So we look at blog posts, things that were written by other people, and then we take that, we write, but we have to like gather like so many
More
resources.
information.
So
Yeah.
I think my experience of being able to like gather like multiple sources and then being able to like bring from different parts of them to like form like a book, it really kind of like helped me to be able to like put long pieces of works together. So that sort of like made me feel very comfortable to like doing like some very deep research. So I could want to write on something, then I'm gonna like look very widely on all the things that I can find on that particular subject, and I can, move from there confidently. And when it comes to books that I've read, I would say because my research is very like widespread and not like super widespread, but it's very interdisciplinary. Um, I've read a few books by Tony Falola. I've read books by Adesina Afolayan, then books by Tejumola Olani as well. And there are also books that are written by African gender scholars like Rattle. Those are South Africans, but they do a lot of works on African masculinities. And one of the things that I really like about them is how they always promote the African-centered theories of masculinity, not just the Western frameworks or the Northern gender framework. So yeah, I would say.
Wow. I was kind of, I like it. I think the conversation is getting more interesting, and this is the part where I come in. I know you are a lover of Fela Kuti.
Yeah.
Does it have anything to do with, because knowing Fela and his philosophy and the kind of music that he creates, some people even see him as a prophet. So
he is a prophet.
Is it? Okay, I said it. So do you think that his music influenced the kind of writing that you do today?
Absolutely. I wouldn't say influence, but I think I would use the word inspire because for me as a thinker, like I'm really inspired by so many things. And one of the things that I really struggle with is that I write a lot because I'm really inspired every time by a lot of things around me. Like we could be talking now and I could be inspired by the things we're talking about and I could write about it. And but yeah, so listening to Fela's song, there's a lot of inspiration that you can drive out from his songs. His songs are very Pan-Africanist in nature, and for me, there's been a lot of works that have been done on Fela Kuti, and I feel like there will still be several works that will be done on his songs because there's just a lot that we're yet to unpack. Right now, I'm currently writing a monograph on Fela Kuti, and what I'm looking at is how we can read his music as a method of decoloniality, and I'm calling that Afrosonic decoloniality, in the sense that, there's a way he's sort of trying to decolonize us, from colonial mentality. And there's so many of his songs that are really like gestured towards that, and they are like different aspects of, of the way he tries to decolonize our sensibilities. We can look at the way he uses indigenous systems or the way he uses like things that are like natural to the human beings. How he even talks about like, we could talk about sexuality, we could talk about, even like something that's
through his songs.
Yeah, we could even talk about something that like, that we're like, like Pope, the way the way we use that to like express a message, there's so many of his songs that, we've not really like taken seriously as like, okay, this is really something. For example, one of his songs he was talking about, we have pants, we have trousers, but if you want to wear a very good trousers, you need like a very good pants, And now
that's true.
Yeah, and it's just saying like, at the end of the day, like neither of them is more important than the other. Like they both work to complement to mention that that you look good, that that you're well protected, that you're well covered as a human, So when you take something like that, then it makes you really reflect deeply on how the way it looks at society, the way it uses like things that are like very, very close to us, the things that we can
Yeah.
relate with. And that is what really I'm trying to engage with, to see that, to show that, there's a lot that we can take out of his music.
Yeah. Fela is one of those I would say world personality in terms of music that it's like his study is endless. The more you feel like
Yeah.
people have looked at him from this angle, and then somebody like you also kind of bring up another aspect of him, and then people are like, oh, so I never knew this existed. I know you have not always been a critical thinker. You studied French.
Yeah.
Vous parlez français.
Oui, je parle français.
Alors, from where did we switch from French? How did you come about French? And then at what point did you feel like, no, I'm done with French. This is the aspect I want to take in.
Well, that's a very good question, but I won't say I'm done with French.
Oh,
But
okay.
I would say, so as an individual, there's a lot of growth that you find eventually as you move forward in life. Like, we are not meant to be static. We are meant to evolve. We are meant to grow. And there comes a point in your life where you sort of like discover your destiny, and you just go with that. So
Yeah.
for me, when I got into my master's program here in French, then I begin to be more invested in a lot of things. I was really more invested in masculinity at first, and then I was really drawn into like so many things. And all of these things I was drawn to, they have nothing absolutely to do with French.
Yeah.
So I didn't let the fact that I was studying French to limit me. So I would look at those at my free time, and I was really enjoying them. I was, like some people would look at it like, oh my God, that's a lot, because you have to read so many articles. You have to, you have to, some books you come across, you have to read. So, and I just really loved how some Africans were writing about African issues and many things. And I was like, well, I want to start writing about Africans as well. Like, I want to elevate Africans. I want to put Africans at the forefront. And with French studies, I'm not able to do so much because, there has to be a sort of like French in it.
Yeah.
So, and that's why I see myself as an interdisciplinary scholar. I still look at French as a tool, because at the end of the day, it's a skill. I speak French to the best that I can. I'm not a pro speaker. That was not my first language, but I try my best.
Can we try it?
No, let's not try it. We are not speaking French yet. Yeah.
Okay.
But, so, it's a language, and I've written a few things, using French as well. I mean, my first article was actually about a French singer, right? And I have to like use the songs. And we actually did, we did survey people that were living in Ivory Coast to get, how they feel about the songs.
Yeah.
So even I've written so many articles about like French literature, and so I do research on French literature as well. So I'm just a man that, I love to write, and if it makes sense, if it's about Africa, if it's about Africans, I'm on for it.
But you started French in Nigeria. You studied at the University of Ibadan, where you studied French.
Oui.
So how did you stumble on French as an undergrad? Because typically French, knowing people that study French in Nigeria, some of them feel like they gave the course to me.
Yeah.
This is not what I wanted to study. They gave it to me. Unlike some of us, they feel like we're glued with the language. So I'm wondering, how did you stumble on French as an undergrad?
Well, I wouldn't say I stumbled on French. I feel like French rather stumbled on me.
On you. Okay.
Yeah, because at first, I was working with two lawyers in a law firm, right? So they had a law firm, and then I just finished my secondary school, and they were like, "Oh, you should be a lawyer. You're so smart. You're so this, blah 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 blah." And I'm like, no,
Not really.
I don't want to be a lawyer. And then I was doing French in secondary school, and I was one of the only two people that was doing French out of everyone. So I was like, I think this is something I really want to pursue. So I told my parents that I would love to study like foreign languages. And I was very surprised that they were actually very welcoming. They were like, okay, cool.
I was going to come to that really, because parents and languages.
Yeah, but I feel like I've been lucky. I've been lucky. I've been lucky a lot in my life, and I can say that for like a lot of things. I could say that like in different aspects of my life. The people that I've had around me, like I've been very, very lucky. But my parents, they really supported me. They were like, okay, why not? But again, I still have to find a way to package it so that it looks
It looks
very good,
enticing.
like has like very big prospect, because
Yeah.
African parents, they want to see
You have to
what
be
can
a
this give you.
lawyer, you have to be a doctor or an engineer. Any of
Yeah.
these three.
So when I told them that, they were welcoming, but again, I have to like really sell it to them. But yeah, I went in for French because I put in French, I got what I wanted, and I just went from there.
So it's out of curiosity that you French stumbled on you to study.
Well, so when I used the word stumbled, I meant to say more so like, it was not an accident.
Okay. Okay.
Right.
Right.
It was more like, so when something stumbles on you,
Mm.
it's more so it just happens.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like you never plan to stumble, right?
Yeah.
So when you stumble,
Okay.
it just happens.
Mm.
Right. So because I was already like doing French in secondary school, I was like, okay, let me do French because I really wanted to do something that was different.
Yeah.
I never saw myself as a lawyer because I had no passion for like trying to defend someone.
You can defend.
I could barely defend myself. Then I'm going to spend the rest of my life defending other people. Absolutely not. And I'm not, I don't talk too much like that. And
All right.
I don't no, not this to those who talk too much,
All
but
right.
I'm just saying,
Right.
like, like that's not my personality.
Yeah.
And I feel like
Mm.
with French, it really matches well because it's about like learning a foreign language, and I feel like it always piques my brain as well as someone who loves to like learn. There's
Mm.
endless possibilities when it comes to learning. You can always learn a new word, learn a new expression, and it keeps your brain alive.
Yeah. Wow. I feel like aside your parents having such a positive reaction or attitude towards you picking French, what were other mentors or people that influenced you growing up as a child?
Hmm. I feel like I've always been influenced by several people based on several
Areas or
levels,
aspects?
exactly
Mm.
something like that. So I can say that I had like a very big mentor, like, oh my god, this guy was doing this thing, and it just blew my mind away.
Yeah.
But I would say I was very much influenced by my eldest sibling, not because he was like the most educated person on earth, but more so because it was like very disciplined, very structured, and he had a very good thing going for him, and he
Mm.
was very smart. He
Yeah.
spoke very intelligently. He was very respected. I was like, okay. So I just looked at that. I'm like, okay, I want to grow, and I want to be able to like carry myself where I want to I in the way I project myself wherever I am, like I want to find myself in a spot where I'm able to also like mentor others. I want people to look up to me, even as I look up to others as well, so that I can also model that out for them, that you can be born in Agege, but
Yeah. You don't
you
have to
can
be
do
a
so many
gay.
great things. Yeah,
Let me invent that word.
absolutely.
All right, great. Um, as a scholar, there
Hmm.
will be people that have influenced your scholarly style of writing.
Yes.
Yes, so we want to know those.
Well, for sure, there's quite a few people, and I think I would say Tony Falola, especially. I really enjoy his writing a lot.
Yeah.
You know, I'll say Tejumola Olaniyan, and then Adesina Afolayan as well.
Mm.
There's also South African scholars as well, like Mfekan, Ratole, Kopano,
Okay.
and there are quite a few things I really appreciate about these writers. And number one is that they make it very comfortable for me to write as an African. When I read the words that they've written, when the way they use the indigenous language like Yoruba language, they're always very confident to use it.
In the
In
text.
the text, yes,
Okay.
and these are words that are published in very highly regarded venue. They would write so much, and they would laugh. They would write a book. They would not like laugh, but they would crack jokes.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm reading a new book released by Falola on Yoruba metaphysics, and he was talking about how he was sick, but the Orishas didn't let him to be sick, and he just laughed, like,
Yeah.
seriously. So I just find that really funny, like like you can be free as an African, like you don't
Mm.
have to write as a Westerner, you don't have to be serious. You can be yourself. You can write Yoruba, you can translate, you can let people know, like you can be free. Like it's just something
That
beautiful.
freedom of being able to
Yes,
express yourself.
yeah. So yeah, it
Yeah.
really makes me to see that. Okay, wow, this is this this makes sense. If they can do that, I can do that as well. And I've done that as well in several of my works, and I always amplify indigenous frameworks and for other writers as well that are Africanists, the way they always try to push the indigenous ways of knowing, trying to represent Africanness and how our lives are cannot be equated with Western ways of life because we have things that are very peculiar to us. So I really draw so much inspiration from all of them. And I really want to say thank you to all of
Thank
them.
you for, I mean, that's one of the beautiful thing about writing, because they could not have expected that the impact would go beyond maybe their audience. Maybe they
Yeah.
knew that, okay, well, I'm writing, I'm doing what I love to do, but having the fact that this work is going to impact somebody just beyond, or over the sea, somewhere around the world,
Yeah.
is one of the greatest thing, one of the things that I love about writing.
Mhm.
So we're going to talk about your books now.
Oh,
Yes, we have to
there
talk
we go.
about them. I have Amakuri here, and then the Frigid Tales and the Tangling Emotions. Then I have Resilience 2.0. So that means
Yeah. There was a one.
there was a one.
Yes.
But the one that really that I would like to talk about is the Amakuri, and because there have been a lot of work, conversations, narrative shaping, and all of that around the girl child and the
Yeah.
women. And it's beautiful to see that we have people like you working on something that has to do with boy child, old man. So let me take it from your book, then we go to the masculinity.
Yeah.
Yeah. So why did you write this book? How did it come about? What's the story behind it?
So I think I wrote this book in 2021 or 2022. I can't really remember.
Yeah.
But around that time, there was a lot of narratives about like Nigerian men, African men, and it was like people don't really listen to men unless they have like something to offer. So like men were struggling, men were going through so many things.
When you say something to offer, does it have to do with like
financial, yes.
Okay.
So like for instance now, like you cannot really like come forward and have a conversation as a man unless there's something you're bringing to the table. Like you have to show that you're rich, you have to show that you are sort of like manly. So around that time there were so many things going on. Like on Twitter it was trending, like boys were being raped, men.
Wait, hold up. Boys being raped.
Yes, I can't remember exactly what was going on, but there were narratives about like some boys and
Being raped.
yes, and all of these things, or some boys talking about like the experiences, and people were laughing about it. People, they were not taking attention to that as well. And besides that as well, it's just something that I also observed in society, like the way people look at men, like okay, like
man up, that kind of
exactly
man up.
Yeah,
Okay.
so like there's no space for them to like express.
Mm.
And people don't usually tend to like give voice more to men because they feel like men already have the voice. And one of the dangers of that is that it sidelines some very important conversations that we should have. And you mentioned something very important about the girl child and women. I absolutely believe those are very important conversations as well. We definitely need to. But in a society, if we want, the changes that we're seeking so much, if we want to see them happen, we also have to have those alongside men as well. Because if you have a society where men are able to, to express themselves, where being a man is not contingent on how much you can bring to the table, it's not contingent on
the certificates that
your pockets and all of those things,
the prestige,
stomach infrastructure, like all of those kind of things, that men do not have to think they have to like go to the ends of the earth to make money. They say ibi tó ń lé la bọ́mọ ọkùnrin.
Ibi tó ń lé la bọ́mọ ọkùnrin.
We
have to find a way to translate.
Yeah, we get to that later. So like all of those things push men to be dangerous because they know that this is what they have to do before they can be seen, before they can be heard. So you can be doing all these things for women, but if you don't take care of that, it's still going to come back later. So that's why I wrote this book as a sort of like wake up call. Like we have to go back to the drawing board. We have to look at men. We have to take men's life very seriously if we really want to have the gender equality and equity that we really deserve.
But I think many people will say that the society is already patriarchal.
Yeah.
The society is already patriarchal. So why should we talk about men? Why should we be talking about giving men more opportunity or even give them platform or allow them to express themselves? Because it's already patriarchal as it is.
Well, that is a good question, but we should also not forget that patriarchy affects men even as it affects women, because patriarchy creates a lot of pressure for men to be men.
Yeah.
So for us to really get down to the road, we have to also take men's lives seriously. And if you look at like the scholarship that a lot of African feminists have pushed forward, they are always advocating
For the girl child.
for the girl child, of course, and also saying that we want men to be part of this movement that we're doing. Because they understand that when you work with men, because men are already in power, then that makes our work easy. So then we can also like get through all those spaces that have been blocked by patriarchy, and then we can advance. So when we say, oh, men are already in power, we should not consider them. Then that makes it difficult for us to like have those critical conversations that would really help us to advance. Because at the end of the day, there are several men who are also suffering from patriarchy.
I don't know if you can expatiate on that. I'm really trying to
So
understand.
when I say suffering from patriarchy, is that so like we have a certain kind of men that are in power. So those are really like imposed, what it means to be a man. So there are several other men as well that are struggling, who cannot really like attain to that status
To
of
that level.
what has been called like you have to be a man. And scholars have called it hegemonic masculinities. So that's the framework that's used to define that, because there's the preferred man and there's like other men. So so when you're like with the rank of like the other men, you cannot emancipate because you are not even a man. So those kind of men now, they could be involved in like dangerous activities, because they also want to get to the top. So patriarchy has created that kind of condition, and because of that, it impacts men. So when it impacts men, it also like impacts women and the girl child. So, but when we have conversations that's that we are able to like destabilize that hegemonic framework, then we can move forward. And even if it's not completely destabilized, we can reduce it to an extent where we can achieve the gender equity society that we are laboring towards.
Wow. And somehow I am on a particular part of the book, and I'm on page 40, and there is this caption that just says, "But the boy child is irredeemable."
Yeah.
So can you expatiate on that?
So, but the boy child is irredeemable is coming from a context of like how for instance, like people are always quick to like rush to help the girl child. So if the girl child does something wrong, they're like, oh, she's a young lady. Oh, we have to look after her. She's vulnerable. And that is good. And I want to be very clear that when I say these things, I did not say that we have to neglect one for the other.
Girl,
no, that's not what I'm saying.
You're just saying that let's have a balance.
Yeah, the girl child is vulnerable, absolutely. Of course, are they more vulnerable? I would say yes. But in our pursuit for that, we also have to consider boy child as well. There are so many boy child, that they are very vulnerable, but attention is not given to them because, as a boy, you're meant to find your way, you are meant to figure it out, you are meant to find solutions yourself. Like you could be 9, you could be 10, and they're like, oh, you're a boy, you figure it out. And I remember very, very clearly there was a time in my secondary school then, we do not, like the boys, we do not have a toilet.
Because I get that now.
So the toilet, quote unquote, that we have was like no good at all. And the girls, they have like very nice toilets, and they're like, oh, you guys are boys, you can fix yourself. And we can look at that like, okay, it's just a toilet, but that is also the same way that people look at like boys and men. Like they create this, like, okay, girls, we're going to try to give you this, this life, and then boys, you're going to figure it out. And what they don't know is that, when you prioritize one over the other, you're making the boy child look like, they have to like figure out life themselves. They have to like experience the worst. Like you cannot train me with bitterness and you expect me to spit out. You know what I'm saying? So because that also impacts the way they treat other boys
people,
too.
Yes. Because they can't give what they don't have. Actually.
Exactly. So that is why, so when I was talking about the boy child being irredeemable, it's just to show how, the girl child is, there's a sort of softness that we have, but when it comes to boys, they look at him, look at the way he's looking with a very strong face, like there's always this bias that you already have because he's a boy, it could be badly dressed, it could have like, dust on his feet, his clothes is torn. But if a girl has that same thing, they always want, you are a girl. Why are you like this? But what's the shiripa? But like So
Yeah.
so now we have to look at, we have to change the way we look at those things. We have to recognize that boys are as much as vulnerable
As
as
girls
girls, even though I would say like girls
are
are
more.
always more
Hmm.
vulnerable than boys.
Hmm. So there is little or no impact that can be done if there are not many people talking about the same thing. Like I've always believed that conversations change narratives and then
Mm-hmm.
narrative form cultures.
Mm-hmm.
So you are doing this in your own little ways.
Yeah.
How can that spread to have a great impact in the way the boy child is taken care of,
Mm-hmm.
and because in turn is this boy that is taken care of that is going to become a man one day,
Yeah.
right? So how are you looking at spreading this conversation such that it has an impact, and then we're going to have a culture where the boy child is looked after and also
Mm-hmm.
considered. Some people even say that the boy should not cry. Boys
Yeah.
don't cry, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do they?
Yeah, some people say that, yeah. But boys do
Right.
cry. Yeah.
So boys are not even expected to
To show
express their
emotions.
emotions
Yeah.
to that tiniest part of something is wrong and then I want to cry. So man up, why are you crying? You're a
Yeah.
boy.
Mm-hmm.
So how are you looking at spreading this conversation such that it had a larger impact?
I feel like, we have a lot of grassroots work to do, because at the end of the day, the people who are like in remote areas, or people who do not have like, so, they are not that much exposed to education,
Hmm.
and that is what they've inherited, right?
Yeah.
So they would always run with that narrative that, oh, you are a boy, you have to figure it out, and all of
Mm.
those things. So those are the people that I really have to like get closer to. But for me, in my own little way, it's always in my writing, and that's why when I wrote my one of my article that I wrote on the boy child and masculine sufferings in um, Amadou Kuruma,
Mm.
Alan the
Yeah.
Power
I like the
Oblige,
publisher, okay.
and one other books as well. Like I was
Alright.
trying to really spotlight how, even the way the writer and the way he narrated his story,
Yeah.
like there's no emotion towards like his
Like
experience. And
Steve.
yeah, so and you can read it as well. You can see that, he looks at it like, oh, it's nothing.
It's
And this is a
yeah.
boy that was molested, this is a boy that had to kill, and it was like 10, 11, and you could see that lack of like emotional sensibilities
Yeah.
towards that, and that really tells a lot about like the way we look at boy child. So for me, it's always like going back to all these popular arts, and like
Conversation.
talking about them. This is what we can see from this. This is what we can do. Like raising that awareness.
Mm-hmm.
So that's always been what I can do. But what I can do and what I've been doing as well, that's my own medium of intervening. And
Yeah.
I think we're making some progress. We're making some progress. It's 2026, 21st century. We are making some progress. There are some things I've seen online when it comes to
The ball
some,
child.
yeah, when it comes
Yeah.
to like some initiatives that some people are
Mm.
taking, and they are really, really trying to help the boy child, but
Yeah.
there's still a lot more that has to be done. So it
Mm.
all boils down to how we can get the message across, and how we can destabilize the structures, and also how we can support feminists as well.
Yes, please do support us.
Yeah, because we
Yeah.
have to support
I think
feminists.
it has to be a collaborative work,
Yeah,
really.
and that is the thing. African feminists have always been collaborative with men. You can
Yeah.
go read all the works of like African feminists. Those are
Mm.
that so because we have different strands of feminism.
Yeah.
So we have like Western feminism, we have
Mm.
African feminism.
Mm.
They will tell you that it's a conciliatory framework where they bring men and women together as part of the struggle to
This
liberate both of
conversation.
them, because
Yeah.
everyone is suffering under patriarchy, like I said.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So um if we can have that, support African feminism,
Mm.
because Western feminism, the way it's
It's
created,
different.
yeah, it's
It's
different
totally
because it's
different.
more like antagonizing
Yeah.
masculinities. But African feminism like wants to like support men, wants to work with men,
Mm.
and also so if we can have that, we can really have like a very, very good gender equitable society.
Mm. And I'm thinking, this solution that we're trying to create or to
Mm-hmm.
prefer with your conversation, is it
Yeah.
contextual?
What do you mean?
Like, is the solution like having to talk about the ball child? Does it have to do with context of the African context? Is it the reality
Mm.
of most African countries, or this is just peculiar to us as a nation in Nigeria
I
particularly?
feel like it is very peculiar to like a lot of African countries
Mm,
because it is something that that we see. We hear all this news, we see a lot of them online. The
mm,
things. Like we live in a very digital age, so we are very
yeah,
interconnected. We watch the news. We read books. I mean, Amadou Kourouba is an Ivorian,
yeah,
right?
and we've read
So
a lot about it.
yes,
Yeah.
so it's and I wouldn't say it's also African alone. It's only African countries. There are so many countries outside of Africa as well
Mm-hmm.
that are facing those crises.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's not the same for America as well in
Mm-hmm.
several parts
Mm-hmm.
because I know in some communities there's still that notion of, oh, you are a boy, you have to
Yeah, boy,
toughen
yeah,
up and all of
yeah.
those things,
Mm,
and how girls are giving more love than boys,
mm,
and that's why we have to take it more as as person by person.
oh,
Every individual has to
yeah.
like contribute their quota, like wherever it is they are, wherever they are, you
Mm,
know, and we can move forward from there.
And this is going to lead me to the masculinity before we talk about mental health for
Okay.
men, because I think that is another part of conversation that we need to be having, really, men and their mental health.
Mm-hmm.
We really need to have those conversations. I'm
Yeah.
serious. So let's talk about masculinity. How did you
Yeah.
come about it? Like, you are, I would say you're the first person I met, and then I started hearing about masculinity.
Voila.
And I said, okay, I need to go and study more about this. And I found out that there are few people really talking about it the way
Mm-hmm.
you talk about it. And
Yeah.
then there's also this passion you have around this conversation. So, how
Yeah.
did it come about masculinity? And yeah, just walk us through that.
Well, so the bedrock of the impetus of my masculinities
Mm.
is actually addressed to when I was
You wrote
writing this
this?
book.
Okay.
But when I even wrote like Omo Korean, like how many years ago, like 5, 6 years ago,
Mm.
I was not really much like a scholar.
Mm-hmm.
I was a writer. So there's a difference between a writer and a scholar. A writer can
Yeah.
be a scholar, but sometimes not all writers are scholars, right?
Mm.
So I was more so a writer, but I wasn't a scholar. So I came with this passion of like, I want to talk about men,
Mm.
I really don't see a lot written about men. When we talk about gender studies, women is what they call gender studies, right?
Yeah.
So they
Yeah.
say, oh, gender studies, you know,
Women.
exactly. So and I was like, we need to talk about men,
Yeah.
for us to move forward as a nation,
Mm.
gender equity and all of this,
Mm.
gender issues, men have to be important part of this conversation. We cannot just look at men as, as antagonists,
Mm-hmm.
There are so many men that are vulnerable as well. So I had that in mind, and then when I came to Mizzou for my master's program,
Yeah.
I remember the paper that I wrote for the first class that I did was a masculinity. So we had to submit that seminar work, right?
Was it
For
accepted?
Of course, yeah.
Okay.
So we watched a movie, right? We watched
All right.
what's the movie? The other they come, the one in the 1970s.
Okay.
That was Valerie Cousin's
Cause.
course
Yeah.
on cinema, and then I wrote on hegemonic masculinity. So for me, I was just writing as a writer,
Mm.
and then she was like, masculinity, as you explained, is not really what it is.
Yeah.
For me, I was just talking about men in general, yeah. And she
Yeah.
was like nudging me towards like go and explore more of
One
this
more.
framework of
Yeah.
masculinity. So, and then she recommended so many works to me, like Cornell. I
Mm.
mean, there's no masculinity scholar that will not know like Reverend Cornell, and there was some other works as well that she recommended. I was like, okay,
Mm.
so I went and then I started reading more about masculinity, about about the theory of masculinity itself. Like, wow, okay.
This is a
So that for
conversation.
me was where I got
Yeah.
like the theoretical jab from.
Mm.
So from there it was just like reading on. Because when you read an article,
Yeah.
it
To
leads to
another
another
one.
article.
Yeah.
And then it just goes from there. So that was
Mm.
so I'm very, very much grounded in masculinity theory and it's always, how it's constructed and performative and
You're passionate about it. Like,
yeah.
I know there are three things that I really like about you as a person,
Ah, chill.
and it has to do with your passion, your excellence in things that you do,
Merci. Oh.
and your consistency. I won't forget those three, right?
Thank you. Thank you.
So,
We appreciate you.
all right. So these three things are always reflected in your works. I've read like one or two articles, so I know it's reflective in your work. And how did you come about this passion? Because when people
Mm-hmm.
talk about passion, you talk about it's not something that fades away for me.
Yeah.
It's the way it continues, even in
Yeah.
different things that you do,
Mm-hmm.
and you really have eyes for details. I'll say
Yeah.
that here, like life and direct, he has eyes for details. So, how did you come about? What was the driving force? Really, let me say, what's the driving force?
I think for me, it's more so like I really enjoy writing. That's one, and
Hmm.
number two is more like there's a lot that needs to be told. There's a lot we need to put out about the lives of Africans.
Hmm.
And I read several works and about Africans writing about Africans, and all of those things really just inspire and motivate me to be like I have to be part of these people as well.
Yeah.
I have to speak for my people. I have to write.
Mm.
I was just I just posted a screenshot on my WhatsApp like 2 days ago, and the I was reading this book on theorizing Nigerian indigenous systems, and
Mm.
the editor was right about if you don't write about ourselves as Africans,
Who is going to write
who's going
about
to do
it?
that? So
Yeah.
like I take a lot of inspiration for that. I'm like this is how I really like give back to my Africans.
Mm.
It's always about we need to put ourselves as in
In
these
this
discussions.
conversation, yeah,
There was for a very long time everything about Africans
is
were
what was
written.
written.
But yeah, and it was actually written by non-Africans,
Yeah.
and they wrote it however they want to. Some of them were highly distorted. So I just came in and I'm like, okay, the lives of Africans, we have to talk about it.
Mm.
We have to amplify our indigenous system, indigenous
Mm.
ways of thinking. We have to put that forward there,
Yeah.
and that has really just motivated me. And I've had like so many sources as well. I feel like the sources you have in publications really help you too because
Yeah, it
it shows
does.
that yes, okay, my like what I'm writing makes sense.
You are a writer. Like you're not a writer. You are. I don't. When I said earlier at the beginning, when I said he's a Agba scholar, I really mean it. Like when Tayo is into something, he's into it, and until you see the end of it, it's like, no, I'm not done.
Yeah,
So definitely your people see.
yeah,
People can see, they can see rigorosity going into what you do. So
yeah,
I'm not surprised that your works are being accepted and
yeah,
collaborations are coming in.
yeah.
All right. So I want to talk about mental health now.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about men and their mental health.
Yeah.
This is a conversation that looks as if, especially the African man, is as if, man up, you know what I mean? Why you
Mm-hmm.
crying? So talk to us about how you have been able to manage your mental health as an African man, and what would you say to other African men watching this about their mental health?
You know what's crazy? Just recently, I stumbled upon an article, and the
Yeah.
article saying like one thing that can really mess you up in life is if you have a terrible partner. So
Whoa.
if you want,
Okay.
if you want to have good mental health as a man, marry right.
Marry right.
So I would say like my wife has been amazing.
Aww.
Like she really helps me a lot
Yeah.
in terms of like my health generally.
Yeah.
Right. Like she takes those things seriously. She would now she just even like scheduled like a doctor's appointment
Session.
for me.
You
Just like,
need
oh
it.
babe, this thing you need to go check it out. I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
she's like, no, you have to like she's taking care of that. And not say that as men you have to be complacent, but I'm saying
Yeah.
like the people you have around you, your
Mm.
wife, like they really contribute so much to you as a man because sometimes as men we tend to be carried away by a lot of things.
Yeah.
But besides that as well, again having a wife that you can talk
It's
to.
like we are going to wrap this mental health around your
Yeah,
wife.
like like someone that you can talk to, someone
Yeah.
that can, that can listen to you, someone that's like provide you a space to
Yeah.
do what you have to do, And I would also say, also understanding that you're human as well, giving yourself grace
Mm.
and just, acknowledging that you have emotions too. You're not
You
a
do.
robot,
You're not
right?
actually.
And also, whatever you give out to the world also comes back to you. So you don't need to be like a terrible human being.
That's true.
So if you give out like goodness,
Yeah.
there's a way the universe and everything works, and
Send
it
it
just
back to you.
you get that back as well. So just be kind, be good, and take care of yourself. If you need to sleep, sleep.
Yeah.
Although sometimes I don't sleep for
I'm
that
not
much,
gonna say anything here yet.
but just do what you got to do, and it is
Yeah.
what it is.
What about men that are not married? Because you just
Mhm.
mentioned basically for those that are married. So
They
if
should
you're
get married. Yes, go get a wife. But just kidding. But if you're not married, of course, there's several ways you can take care of yourself, and again, it boils down to, being in tune with yourself, right? Don't, put yourself in situations that would really hamper you. If you need to sleep, sleep.
Please do. Please
Just
do.
always have boundaries as well. I need to mention financials.
Financial,
Because
that part
as
is the
men,
one that stresses men out.
the way they bill men these days,
who are those billing men?
They're still billing me from home self. Every day I'm collecting billing. There's
Oh
one
my
WhatsApp message
God.
I've not even opened now because they are billing me.
Yeah.
But I would say, like, as a man, you need to have boundary. For instance, like, if some people, like, even like my family, if they ask me for like a certain amount, I'll be like, I cannot give you this food,
this
but
is
I can
what
give you
I
this
have,
one.
yeah.
Or even when they come, I'll be like, no, right now I can't give out
because
anything.
you are limited, actually.
Yeah,
You're
so
limited.
like I feel like some men really feel like you have to say yes all the time.
No, you have to have boundaries.
No, so if you are that man that you really want to like say yes all the time, you're done for.
You're cooked.
You are cooked.
Cooked.
So you have to be able to say
Yeah.
no sometimes, and also have like a very good cycle of people around you as well. It's also good.
I think in the West, mental health is talked about, and the awareness is kind of reasonable.
Yeah.
Talk to the African men about their mental health.
Well, I feel like a lot of times, because again, it boils down to how an African man, when it comes to like expressing how he feels, it's like you acting like a girl. You're being girly.
Yeah.
Some people even tell you, Dad, it is women that will talk about their feelings now. Look at the way you're even crying like a girl, like a baby. You are complaining.
Yeah.
You are complaining like a baby. You're complaining about this. So it is really unfortunate, that that men find ourselves in this spot. But again, it's more like it's difficult to tell men as well to like let the emotions flow. When whereas they are surrounded by people who say like,
so that has to do with people that surround you. Really.
Yeah, so that's why, like, as a man, you just have to be like, F it, man.
No, what the F is with that?
Yeah, like, if you need to cry, if you need to express your emotions, do that. Like, whatever really works for you, do that. Like, don't feel like you have to constrain that, And to be honest, I'm not like the most crying person ever.
Yeah, but there are times where your emotions just need you.
Yeah, but like, and I'll just tell people like, whatever really works for you, whatever works for your emotions, go for that. Don't feel like you have to constrain yourself to conform to what society said you have to be.
Yeah,
absolutely not. You're not doing that. So whatever really helps you to feel mentally fine and is not really injuring anyone, whatever is good, go for it.
I will say from personal experience about mental health for men is that label your emotions. Like, how do you feel? How are you feeling about this particular situation? Frustrated, I'm angry, I'm confused. Label it. When you label the emotion, it's easy for you to say, okay, when I'm confused, what do I really need to do? And men, please, you are so important. And Tayo mentioned something very important, which is that you are also human. You are not robots. Just let everybody around you know that you are limited in your capacity. You are not God. It's only God that is limitless. So such that you are able to put boundaries around yourself. Take care of yourself. Be conscious of the emotions, that what triggers this emotion. That's another thing. There are so many things, like we mentioned money. Money is like the number one culprit of the things that triggers this stress among men. And take care of yourself. You need to book a session. He's blessed, like his wife is booking a session for him. Hello, girl. All right, so thank you so much for coming on board today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, I would want to ask, what does boldness mean to you?
Boldness.
Yeah.
I think boldness means just doing it. Boldness is like recognizing that you live in a world where there's a lot of visualization, but you're doing everything regardless. You're not allowing yourself to be held back by the narratives of society.
Yeah. So that's boldness according to my guest today. And please, your books, they're available
on Amazon.
On Amazon. So all the books are available on Amazon. I'm intrigued more by this particular Omokunrin, and I'm sure he has a reason why he chose Omokunrin instead of saying the bald child.
And by the way, yes, so that also points to how, I'm really trying to put like Yoruba language out there.
All right.
Yeah. By the way, these are like back way in the days. So just in case.
Back way in the days.
Yeah. So don't expect like anything like too sophisticated because I like I said, I wrote them as a writer, not that don't really as a scholar. But
No.
with time, like
Yeah, you've evolved.
yeah, like you evolve and all of those things. But it's a very nice book. I
Yeah.
promise you, you're gonna have like so much fun reading it.
We're gonna put the link to the books in the description of this episode, and of course, just right now, even as we're talking, just Google his name. Like it's all over the place, and I don't know. Sometimes you
Voila.
just feel like this humility, I can't walk with me. All right,
Voila.
so thank you so much for joining us today. It's been an interesting conversation. I really like the fact that every episode of both conversation doesn't look the same because the guests also have their story to tell, and these are ordinary people doing extraordinary things with their works. And Taya, what will be your last word for this episode?
Merci beaucoup.
Wow, merci beaucoup de nous avoir joints aujourd'hui. Uh, don't let me switch.
Voila.
Let me just go back and stay there till I bring again another interesting personality on the show. My name is Medinat Oyedele, and bye for now.
Bye.